When it comes to creative inspiration, hello. When it comes to creative inspiration, job titles, hierarchy are meaningless. That's what I believe. But unwittingly, we were allowing this table and resulting place, card, ritual to send different message. The closer you were to be seated to the middle of the table, it implied the more important, the more central you must be. The farther away, the less likely you were to speak up. Your distance from the heart of the conversation made participating feel intrusive. If the table was crowded, as it was often, still more people would sit in the chair around the edges of the room, creating yet a third tier participants, those at the center of the table at the ends, those not at the table at all. Without intending to, we have created an obstacle that discouraged people from jumping in.
Hello, thank you for calling
Over the
District
course of
425. Please take
decade,
your call. Please leave your name, phone number, and reason for calling, and we'll call you back as soon as possible. Thank you, and have a good day.
without intending, we created an obstacle that discouraged people from jumping in. Over the course of decade, we held countless meetings around the table, those at the ends, at those and the table at all. Without intending to, we created an obstacle that discouraged people from jumping in. Over the course of decade, we held countless meetings around the table in this way, completely unaware of how doing so undermined our core principles. Why we are so blind to this? Because the seating arrangement, the place cards were designed for the convenience of the leaders, including me, sincerely believing that we were inclusive meeting. We saw nothing amiss because we didn't feel excluded. Those who not sitting in the center of the table, meanwhile, saw quite clearly how it established a pecking order, but presumed that we the leaders had intended that outcome. Who were they to complain? It wasn't until we happened to have a meeting in a smaller room with a square table that John and I realized what was wrong. Sitting around the table, the interplay was better, the exchange of ideas more free flowing, the eye contact automatic. Every person there, no matter the job title, felt free to speak up. This was not only what we wanted, but it was a fundamental Pixar belief. Unhindered communication was key. No matter what your position, at our long, skinny table, comfortable in our middle seats, we had utterly failed to recognize that we were behaving contrary to the basic tenets. Over time, we had fallen into a trap. Even though we were conscious that room dynamics are critical to any discussion, even though we believed that we were constantly on the lookout for problems, our vantage point blinded us what was right before our eyes. Emboldened by the new insight, I went to our facilities department. Please, I said, I don't care how you do it, but get the table out of there. I wanted something that could be arranged into a more intimate square so people could address each other directly, not feel like they didn't matter. A few days later, as a critical meeting on upcoming movie approached, our new table was installed. Something the problem still interesting. There was remnant of the problem that did not immediately vanish just because we solved it. For example, the next time I walked into the West Point, I saw a brand new table arranged as requested in the more intimate square that was made it possible for more people to interact one. But the table was adorned with the same old place cards. While we fixed the key problem that had made the cards seem unnecessary, the cards themselves had become a tradition that could continue until we specifically dismantled. This wasn't a troubling and as issue as this table itself, but it was something we had addressed because the cards implied hierarchy. That was precisely what we're trying to avoid. When Andrew Stannon, one of our directors, entered the meeting room, we grabbed several places of car narrating. He went, we don't need this anymore, he said in a way to everyone in the room grasped. Only then did we succeed in eliminating the ancillary problem. This is the nature of management. Decisions are made usually for good reasons, which in turn prompt into decisions. So when the problem arises, they always do disentangling them into as simple as correcting the original error. Often finding a solution is a multi-step endeavor. There is a problem you're trying to solve. Think that was on Oak Tree. Then there are all the other problems. Think of the sampling that sprouted from the acorns field around. This problem remains after you cut the oak tree down. Even after all these years, I'm often surprised to find problems that have existed right in front of me, in plain sight for me. The key is solving these problems in finding ways to see what's working and what isn't, which sounds a lot simpler than this. Pixar today is managed according to this principle, but in a way I have been searching all my life for better ways of seeing. It became decades before Pixar even existed. When I was a kid, I used to plunk myself down on the living room floor of my family modest Salt Lake home a few minutes before 7 p.m. Every Sunday, wait for Walt Disney. Specifically, I would wait for him and appear on the black and white RCA with his tiny 12-inch screen. Even from a dozen feet away, the accepted wisdom at the time was that viewers should put one foot between them and the TV for every inch of screen. I was transfixed by what I saw. Each week, Walt Disney himself opened the broadcast of the wonderful world of Disney, standing before me in suit and tie like a kindly neighbor. He would demystify the Disney's magic. He explained the use of synchronized sound in Steamboat Willie, talk about the importance of music in Fantasia. He always went out his way to give credit to his forebears, the man and the point they were all men, who done the pioneering work upon which he has building his empire. He would introduce the television audience to trailblazers such as Max Fleischer, the Coco Clown, Betty Boop fame winner McKay, who made Gertie the Dinosaur, the first animated film, and the feature a character that expressed emotion. In 1940, he would gather a group of his animators, colorists, storyboard artists to explain how they made Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck come to life. Each week, Disney created a made-up world, used cutting-edge technology to enable it, then told us how he done it. Walt Disney was one of my true boyhood idols. The other was Albert Einstein. To me, even at a young age, they represented the two poles of creativity. Disney was all about inventing the new. He bought things into being both artistically and technologically that did not exist before. Einstein, by contrast, was a master of explaining that which already was. I read every Einstein biography I could get on my hand, as well as the little book he wrote on his theory of relativity. I loved how the concept he developed forced people to change the approach of physics and matter, to view the universe from a different perspective. While the wild-haired, iconic Einstein dared to bend implications that what we thought we knew. We solved the biggest puzzles of all, and doing so changed our understanding of reality. Both Einstein and Disney inspired me. But Disney affected me more because his weekly visits to my family living room, when you wish upon a star, make no difference who you are. His TV show's theme songs would announce a baritone voiced narrator promised each week, as you enter this timeless land, one of these many words will open to you. Then the translator would take off and frontier tall tale true come true legendary past, Tomorrowland, the promise of things come. Adventureland, the wonder world of nature world Dreamland, the Fantasyland, the happiest kingdom of all. I love the idea that animation could take me places I never been, but the land I most wanted to learn about was the one occupied by Innovation as Disney, who made these animated films. Between 1950 and 1955, Disney made three movies we considered classics today: Cinderella, Peter Pan, Lady the Tramp. More than half a century later, we all remember the glass zipper, the island of lost boys, that scene where the cocker spaniel, the mudsplar spaghetti. But the few grasps how technically sophisticated these movies were. Disney animators were at the forefront of applied technology. Instead of merely using existing methods, they were inventing one of their own. They had to develop the tools to perfect sound and color, to use blue screen matting, multiplane cameras, xerography. Every time some technological breakthrough occurred, Walt Disney incorporated it and then talked about it. His show in a way that highlighted the relationship between technology and art. I was too young to realize such a synergy was groundbreaking to me. It just made me sense they belong together. Walt Disney one Saturday evening in 19 April 1956, I experienced something that would define my professional life. What exactly it was is difficult to describe, except to say I felt something fall into place inside my head. That night episode was called "Where Do the Stories Come From?" Disney kicked it off by praising its animators' knack for turning everyday occurrence into cartoons. That night, though, it was Disney's explanation that pulled me into what was happening in the screen. He spoke. An artist was drawing Donald Duck, Donald Duck, giving him a jaunty costume and bucket of flowers, a box of candy, which to Daisy. Then the artist's pencil moved around the page. Donald came to the life and putting him the duck and square of the pencil laid. Then raising his chin and allowing the artist to give him a bow tie. The definition of soup of animation is that each character of the screen make you believe the thinking being. It is a thinking being. Whenever it's a T-Rex or a slinky dog or a desk lamp, if viewers sense not just movements, but intentions, putting another way, emotions, then the animator has done his job. It's not line on paper anymore, it's a living, feeling entity. This is what I experienced that night for the first time. I watched Donald leap off the page, transformation from a static drawing to a fully dimensional animated image in the sleight of hand. Nothing's more but the mystery of how it was done. Not just the technical process, but the way the art was imbued with such emotion was the most interesting problem I would ever considered. I wanted to climb through the TV screen and be a part of this world. The mid 1950s and the early 1960s were, of course, a time of great prosperity in industry in the United States. Growing up in Utah, a tight-knit Mormon community, my four brothers and the sisters, I felt that anything was possible because the adults we knew had all lived through the Depression, the World War II, then the Korean War. The period came to like a calm after the thunderstorm. I remember the optimistic energy and eagerness to move forward that was enabled and supported by a wealth of emerging technology. It was a boom time in America by manufacturing and home construction all-time high. Banks were offering loans and credits, which meant more and more people could own a TV, a house, a Cadillac. There was an amazing new appliances like the new disposal that ate your garbage, machines that washed your dishes. Although I certainly did my share of cleaning them by hand, the first organ transplants were performed in 1954. The polio vaccine came out a year later. 1956, the term artificial intelligence entered the lexicon. The future seemed was already here. Then when I was 12, the Soviets launched the first artificial satellite, Sputnik 1. into Earth's orbit. It was huge news, not just in scientific and political realm. In the sixth grade classroom at school, where the morning routine was interrupted by a visit from the principal, whose grim expression told us that our lives had changed forever since we had been taught that the communists were the enemy and the nuclear war could wage at the touch of button. The fact they're beating us into space and seemed pretty scary. Proof that they had an upper hand. The United States government response to being beaten was to create something called ARPA, Advanced Research Projects Agency. Through it was housed within the Defense Department. Its mission was ostensibly peaceful, to support scientific research in American universities in the hopes of preventing what it termed technological surprise. By sponsoring our best friends, the architects of ARPA believed we would come up with better better answers. Looking back, I still admire the enlightened reactions to a serious threat. We just have to get smarter. ARPA would have a profound effect on America, leading directly to computers, to revolution and the internet, among the countless other innovations. There was a sense of big things was happening in America, with much more to come. Life was full of possibilities. Still, while my family was in middle class, our outlook was shaped by my father's upbringing. Not that he talked about it much. Al Khatmul, the son of Idaho, dirt farmer, who was one of the 14 kids, 5 of whom died in infant. His mother, raised by a Mormon pioneer who made a meager living panning the gold in the Snake River, Idaho, didn't attend school until she was 11. My father was the first in his family ever to go to college, paying his own way by working several jobs. During my childhood, he taught math during school years, built houses during the summer. He built our house from the ground up, while he never explicitly said that education was paramount. My siblings and I knew we were expected to study hard and go to school. I was quite focused student in high school, and our teacher once told my parents I would often become so lost in my work that I wouldn't hear the bell ring at the end of the class. I'd be sitting there at my desk staring at an object, a vase, a chair, something about the act of committing. That object on paper was completely engrossing, the way I necessitated seeing only what was there and what they're supposed to look like. At home, I sent away John Virgil I learned to draw kit, which was advertised in the back of comic book. 1958 classic animation written drawn by Preston Blair, the animator, did dancing hippos, Disney film. I bought the plate and flat metal plate artist to use to press this artist. Oh, I'm tired. I can't.
Actually, ma'am, one of my managers will be is in a nearby facility area. Would like to provide you a customized page for your janitorial purposes.
We actually are a government, we're a government agency, so any custodial stuff is actually done through a contract, and we don't oversee that. That's our job. Okay.
Man, I'm tired.